With 1 week left to go in the UFL regular season, the aficionado mailbag wants to know, what's the deal with some of these empty stadiums that we're seeing on TV each and every week, and what does that mean for the future of the league? Plus our Week 10 picks against the spread here on the H-Town Pick'em podcast. All right, welcome back to another brand new episode of the H-Town Pick'em podcast. I'm your host, Coach Kovo. We are here in the brand new upgraded H-Town Pick'em studios. As always, I got my main man, my nose guard, Mike Obi, and then our notorious Renegades fan, the Mavs fan, the Stars fan. This guy's busy with so much playoff action, he doesn't know what to do with himself. But welcome Nick Beanie to the show.
Yeah, I'm getting really tired, but it's a good kind of tired watching each game every single night. So it's been a lot of fun, and let's keep it going.
No doubt. Let's go ahead and just dive right into the aficionado mailbag. Did not get any questions through our normal channels of YouTube or Twitter or anything. Please do that. We want to get all y'all aficionados involved in the show more. So please let us know what you're thinking. Even if it's something negative, I don't want to encourage that, but if it is a negative comment, just put something in there so we have something to talk about and bring you into the show. But I do have a question that I'm asked every single week, and it's actually from my wife. Christine, every single week I'm there, I'm glued to the screen watching all 4 games, and every time she sees the stands and she says, these stands are empty. Why are you even trying this hard and all this stuff? This league's not even going to be here next year. Like she is the classic casual fan. I don't blame her. I love her. I mean, obviously I love her. She's my wife. I mean, I get it, but there are the sickos and degens and junkies like us that we don't care what's inside the stands. We love what's going on between the white lines, but we got to capture the casual fan somehow. I think this is a problem. I really do. Just some of the things, and she's into sports. I mean, we watch Michigan football all the time together. She is a sports fan, but seeing those empty stands definitely makes her feel a certain type of way. And I think that is something we should address. That was the question this week for the aficionado mailbag. I'll go ahead and just start, and I'll turn over you guys to cap it out. But to me, what she's saying is actually it's very important. It's the visual aesthetic, right? Mm-hmm. The empty stands, I think, do not look good, especially for a casual fan. When they see that, it instantly delegitimizes the league. They think it's trash or whatever. It's lower level. It's not, and it changes the atmosphere. And even when you're at the game, I go to the Roughnecks games. I went to 4 out of 5. The atmosphere is good, even though the stands are empty in large portions. But the atmosphere is good. But on TV, I think it does delegitimize. I've been saying it from day one. We've got to go into smaller venues. Yep. I think that should be the number one course of action in the offseason. By hook or by crook or by nook or by crook or whatever that saying is, we've got to get out of these pro and D1 college stadiums. We've got to get into the soccer stadiums or even something even smaller, to be honest. I've spoken with some people in the Roughnecks organization. I asked that same question about, can we get the Shell Energy Stadium downtown, the soccer stadium? They said, here's the problem. Shell Energy is way more expensive than Rice Stadium or even U of H. So that's a problem. Number 2, right now, our Dynamo and Dash teams, women and men's soccer, are playing. It's a grass pitch. It's going to be a problem trying to have 3 pro teams in the same season. That can be problematic. So that's off the table. They've even looked at some high schools, like where I'm at, Katy. Like that is almost a pro stadium. You can't sell alcohol there. You can't sell alcohol on high school premises. So that knocks out all the – because here in Houston, we do have several stadiums, Tomball, Cy-Fair, Katy. These can pass as pro football stadiums, to be honest. That's off the table. I thought about it. I honestly think playing in something very small would be better than playing in an empty stadium. But I think the SaberCat Stadium, Aviva Stadium, I believe is what it's called. It's right there down off 288. But it's our professional rugby team. It's designed for another kind of – I don't want to call rugby an alt sport. I don't want to offend any rugby fans because it is your highest level of competition here domestically. But it's obviously a smaller fan base. It's a very niche fan base, kind of like our fan base. I think that would be awesome if we were able to get Aviva Stadium. I'm sure it's not quite as expensive. Now, granted, the rugby season is happening at the same time. It's happening right now. So maybe you still have the problems about the grass and the pitch and all that kind of stuff, maybe. But I think that's the only thing I'm going to contribute to this conversation. I think we've got to fix the venues. Casual fans do not like seeing an empty Ford Field, an empty Liberty Bowl, an empty Rice Stadium. So that's what I got. Obi, I'll turn it over to you to start, man. What are your thoughts as far as my wife's reaction? I'm sure a lot of casual fans feel the same way. In fact, I know they do. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on how we can try to attract casual fans?
Well, I think a lot of what you talked about really is some good analysis. The Sabercat Stadium now. The problem also when you talk about 288 South versus Rice Stadium that's downtown, it's not as centrally located. So, do you alienate what part of Houston? Because Houston's a big city. What part of Houston are most of our fans coming from? Are they willing to make that drive? That'd be one thing to consider. But I do agree, at least with the premise that you do have to go to a smaller venue, unless you're going to do what the NFL did with COVID, where you couldn't have the amount of fans in there. So they put a lot of team, I think emblems, logos, like you try to put an aesthetic, you try to put a visual there for the fans because you don't want to have empty stands. You want to put something in place. Or why not make it to where I don't know why the lower deck can't be more affordable to where you almost incentivize people to come closer towards the stadium and closer towards the players rather than being an upper deck or higher up, like almost make it.
I'll speak to that though, because again, the upper decks aren't even open. Like it is only lower deck is open at Rice Stadium, and it's still we can't fill it.
So with that, then you have to go to the next thing. Like, okay, when you try to as much as you can to fill up the lower deck. Then you try to you try to put some type of visual, some type of appeal where, hey, we will only fill up the home side. That way, at least we have the home back and or the way back, and where you put your fans right behind one team. That way, like if we want to use like
Memphis does that, I believe, or they have done it in the past.
Yep, and then on the other side, just to put like fans in. If you're gonna have fans and you're gonna have empty pockets, at least put all the fans in one locale. So that way, it's looked like it's just targeted, and you can kind of see it, and then the TV can be kept on the fans or the interaction. Then on the other side, you have like the team emblems, team logo, or the sponsors, if you will. You have something that is not just the empty stadium, because that does look bad. No matter what, a casual fan flipping through TV, they flip and they go into the game. Why are there no fans in the stands? No, I'm clicking off. So you have that on as far as the TV viewer. As far as getting the attention of the casual fan, I mean, and this is where this type of stuff we talk about this all the time. In a place like Houston, it's very distracted, and there's a lot of stuff to do, right? And so, especially if you're not winning, I mean, I'm a native Houstonian, so I don't feel bad saying this. Houston's the type of place, if you're not winning, they're going to find something else to do. And I heard Los Angeles is like that too. Los Angeles and any big city, if your team is not winning and is not rolling, then people can very quickly find something else to do with their time. And so with that, it's just first off, you got to look within as far as improving the team collective, because when the Roughnecks were winning in 2020 during the first season and even early last season, there was good fan support and people were backing the Roughnecks. Now that they're not, it's like, okay, because it happens with the Rockets, happens with the Astros. Even right now, we won the World Series 2 years ago, and now you're starting to see some empty pockets. So nonetheless, I think it's a multi-pronged approach of like putting the fans all in one locale, then adding some different visuals, different things to kind of mirror or mask up the empty spots. I mean, and then you try to get more fanfare. You try to make I don't know whether it's making the tickets more affordable than they already are.
I don't think they can, Obi. I mean, they're going for like $5-10.
See what I'm saying? So yeah. It's at the end of the day, it's an interest problem. You have to create.
That's interest. The thing. I don't know. I don't think there's a magic pill, but we got to get casuals to come out there. I mean, I think that they do a lot of things as far as trying to have events that attract you, encourage you to bring your kids, right? Because if you bring the kid, Vince McMahon used to do this in WWE. They kind of went into a period where, remember like the Ultimate Warrior, if you guys can remember that, they went with these like kind of cartoonish figures with bright colors that kids were attracted to. And so if the kid is complaining to the parent, hey, can you take me to the wrestling? They come, they buy merch, they buy drinks, they buy concessions. So I think that I've seen them try to do that. Obi, the game we went to, they had a wrestling match going on outside of Rice Stadium. So they are trying those things, but man, I would say it has not met the expectation, right? I don't think the UFL is happy with the numbers or the product as far as visually they're putting out there. Yeah. All right, last word. Nick, you want to wrap us up on this one?
Yeah, I think the XFL did a wonderful job last year. They had a good attendance over across the board. I mean, obviously we had, the bad teams, like Obi was saying, they typically just aren't going to sell well. And I think with the new league, I'm of the mindset, I know we're trying to get casual fans and things like that. I just don't, you just kind of have to accept that, yeah, fans aren't going to come out if your team's not doing too well. And I'm not saying don't worry about it, but, you just can't beat yourself up over that kind of stuff. But two things I think the XFL did really well, and I actually was wrong about this. I actually liked the schedule when the UFL first released it. is pushing it back to February, I think, would make a huge difference. I think that's one reason. And consistently releasing that schedule right there in February, which I believe they're going to do next year.
Yes.
Yeah,
that is what I've heard. I know we've been kind of jerked around a couple times, told one thing and something else happens. But yes, I guess you're saying push up the schedule to start it sooner, right? Like after the Super Bowl, more closely after the Super Bowl.
Correct. Yeah. And I thought people would just be tired of football. They need a little break from it. Apparently not. We want to go right into it. And we were selling out really, really well. I mean, comparatively for that kind of league. The next thing is just tradition, so as long as you have consistency on the schedule and your team does well, tradition, like you were talking about, bringing your kids out to these kind of games and getting them to want to go to the games. Over time should start getting that fever. We're just not there yet just because the league is really, really new. And I think if it's consistent, they're not too shaky on the schedule and they keep on getting people out there, it'll start improving. Now, obviously, you are right. I would love them in smaller stadiums just because it looks hideous. And really a high school stadium would be perfect. But if I know anything, what I saw from the XFL fans, the no alcohol thing would be
that's a deal breaker.
Yeah, that's a deal breaker. Yeah, they like to drink. They like to have a good time. So obviously you can't do that. I really wish the soccer stadium would work out. That would have been perfect. But I get money is an issue with this league. They got to get that duck in order. Just in the meantime, you just keep the schedule consistent. And I think it'll improve over time. The most important thing that this league does get done right, though, is the product on the field. And I like that a lot. It is good football. It's fun football to watch. So sooner or later, those football fans that are just craving it, I think we'll catch an eye, and more people like us talking about it starts getting into their, zeitgeist that they'll end up, wanting to watch more of it over time. And slowly but surely, the crowd should start improving over time.
Obi?
This is the kind of, maybe you were being a little bit fallacious, but I think one of the things with the league and with any league, what was the one thing that helped the NBA kind of skyrocket? It was what rivalry?
Oh, it's Bird and Magic.
Yeah, easily.
Right? And then they had their star in Jordan in the 90s. What's one of the things in WNBA that they have a problem is that they don't have that level of theater. Like it's there in college, women's college basketball, it is. But when they get to the WNBA, there's nothing that is like, oh my gosh, I have to go watch Sabrina Ionescu play Caitlin Clark, Ogumba Wally. Like, so my point is, if you create some level of rivalry, we have 3 Houston teams, and it's just kind of ho-hum. Okay, San Antonio's playing. I mean, we have 3 Texas teams. It's kind of ho-hum. Texas playing San Antonio. We care. But if we're able to then bring in a level of rivalry intrigue where it's like, no, I have to watch this game because of some level of theater, drama, some level of rivalry, like it's bitter. That's what gets people's emotions. Once you get people emotions into the game, they're going to want to tune in. Right now, there's nothing like, oh, I have to watch the UFL. Yeah. So I think that's the thing for planning is you have to, how are we going to get people's emotions? How are we going to get people to draw in more than just casually watching the game? If you're casually watching the game, you're going to get bored because people's attention spans aren't there for it. But if it's, I have to watch the Brahmas play the Renegades. I have to watch the Renegades play the Roughnecks. I have to watch DC play whomever, then that's what's going to create a level of consistent intrigue where it's like the WWE. It's like the NBA whenever they had Magic and Bird. Like there's something drawing people there for a reason.
I completely agree with it. And I said it before the season even started. One of the biggest mistakes they made was moving to Houston to the USFL.
Yep.
Simply because of that. Look, a Houston-Dallas rivalry is a fun one. I mean, these cities just go at it. They have to watch it. You see Twitter blow up when any of the 2 teams play against each other, especially when both teams are good. Yep. So I think they did miss the mark on that. They need to just get the Texas teams together because we love to hate and still love, but it's just part of the Texas culture around here. Especially
that's a great point. Like maybe even in the USFL, as far as fan bases, in the USFL, like the fan bases are weak, with the exception of Birmingham. Yeah. Michigan's fan base is weak. Memphis is extremely weak. Our fan base is honestly pretty weak. maybe what you could have done is put the three. If you got rid of USFL and XFL, and this is a whole different conversation, we're not going to go all the way into it, but maybe you just call it the NFC and the AFC or something like that, or the American and the United, or whatever you want to call it. Instead of, it doesn't have to be XFL, USFL, right? You know, and so you have the Roughneck, or you can call them the Gamblers or the Roughnecks, whatever you want, but you got Roughnecks, Brahmas, and Renegades with the Stallions in that one. Right. And then on the other side, you've got strong bases in DC and St. Louis. You don't want to mess with that. You see what I'm saying? Like, maybe you could finagle it that way to get that what you want, Nick. I don't think you can't put all three Texas teams with DC and St. Louis, because then you got 5, right? Yeah. It's impossible.
The Bayou down south where we are versus the coast. We call it the Coastal Conference versus the Bayou Conference, man.
I like that. I'm down with that. I'm really down. I mean, you have like a Southern Conference.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, Southern people are proud of being Southern. You have your Southern Conference of Birmingham and the Texas schools. That you call it the South and the North, the Northern Conference, Southern Conference. But, well, that was great, guys. We could talk about this all night, but I love it. I love everything you said. I tend to agree to wrap it up. We shouldn't worry about it too much. Like, time, it will take time. These leagues come and go all the time. But as we naturally kind of keep going year after year after year, we'll build that loyalty and that fan support. Also, one thing I forgot to mention, it sucks that the players live inside Arlington in the hub. So they don't train here. We never get to see them during the week, and that hurts too. Eventually, the plan is that they're going to live in their city. So you can imagine if the Roughnecks players were living here, they would be going and visiting elementary schools more and doing stuff in the community. We get to know them more, and you get that. But yeah, love all of it. But now it is just about time to move on to the next segment. Let's look back at last week. All right, looking back at the week that was, week number 9, our results. It was a good week for all of us. We all went 3-1. Nick had a 2-2 week, though. I was so close to pulling off the perfect 4 in a week, but it was our Roughnecks. I was sitting there in the 100-degree heat, watch a 10-point fourth quarter lead evaporate, and it came down to a conversion. I had the cover, but then they hit a 2-point conversion, so I lost it. But it was very hot. That's another thing I like about what Nick said. If we move the schedule back up, it's going to be a lot safer for the players. I mean, honestly, playing football at the end of May, or they're going to play a game in Birmingham in June at 2 p.m. kickoff. That's on turf. That's just not good for any of the players. I saw a woman get taken out on a cart because of heat exhaustion. Like, I think moving forward is going to help everything. So I totally agree with Nick 100% on that. But let's look back at the week that was. And our locks, we all hit it except Obi. Obi did miss his lock because I think he locked in the Stallions or Battlehawks, one of those two. I don't remember. We'll check in a second. But the rest of us did hit our locks, and we did hit our sweep again. And if we look at our overall, me and Nick we're above 50 now. So I've been kind of getting stronger as the year went on. Had a slow start, but now I'm finally at 52.78. So I'm right below that profit line. Me and Nick. We're chasing Obi by 1 game. He's 1 game ahead of us. And then CP is probably the guy you want to tail this year. He's been phenomenal. 69%. That's very good. I mean, that would have made you a good amount of money if you just listen to CP's picks all year. Our locks, CP, and you can tell him he's the best picker. His locks are good too. 66%. You want to be above 53 to be profitable. He's doing it. The rest of us struggling. We're all below 50%. But another tactic you could do is you could tail CP, and then you could tail any of our sweeps. We're hitting 72%. So if you just would have bet every single one of our sweeps this year, you'd be sitting with a really nice stack of cash. And so that was our year-long records against the spread. Let's look back at the week that was week number 9. First game, this was the one I was texting the guys like, I'm not a hot take guy. I don't want to say crazy stuff just to sound crazy and make a sound bite. And so I kind of played it like ho-hum, like I know I'm being silly. I'm making a crazy pick, but in my mind, I really did think the Arlington Renegades were going to beat the Battlehawks. I just wasn't courageous enough to like plant my flag. You know what I mean? But I've talked about the reason. It's the reasons that I talked about on the show, right? I do believe the travel is becoming a factor. I said it from the very beginning. I think the Renegades will get stronger down the stretch because they are traveling way less than everybody else. When they play a home game, they don't have to travel at all. When all these other teams play home games, they're flying over to Michigan or DC. I mean, those are long trips, and I'm sure they're not flying charters or anything like that, right? I mean, probably flying commercial things of that nature. So anyway, I felt good about it. And also, I'm not high on the Battlehawks defense. There was like a little 2-week stretch where their defense started looking good, but for the most part, they have a poor defense. And so I was concerned about that. And then obviously, I also mentioned having the backup in there, Manny Wilkins. We see this all the time where week number 1 for a backup, they look good, but the rest of the league catches up on him. I had a feeling he wouldn't be as successful, and he threw 3 interceptions. I mean, the Renegades defense really had a beat on him. Perez is great. So This was the one that me and Tugboat went 4-0. So our guest FBI Tugboat was 4-0, but we were the ones to go with the Renegades. This was Obi's lock, so this one he missed. But Nick, I'll let you speak to it since it's your team, man. What your guys are looking good coming down the stretch, man. How are you feeling?
Yeah, that offense is starting to look really well. I am agreeing with you big time, though, with the Battlehawks defense. They run a nickel defense, and they try to play a bend, don't break strategy, and you could just run on them. And then I think they start, changing it up right around, they get past the midway field, or their half of the field. So, I'm really worried about them going into the playoffs because one thing I heard Nick Saban one time said is you've got your formation, you got your strategy that you like, your game plan, and they probably thought, hey, look, Luis Perez can pass the ball really well, so we could let's try to cover for that, and he still was able to pass. But we were also able to run the ball now because of that strategy. And Nick Saban said sometimes – you have to practice a different formation on defense just in case the game plan just doesn't work. And the Battlehawks defense, they did this against the Stallions. They now did it against the Renegades. When they're getting beat, they just stick to the same game plan. And if they continue to do that, they're not going to do too well.
Balboa is so predictable and stupid. The man comes straight ahead. He's tailor-made for me, and he's going to get hurt.
Exactly.
I had to drop into Clubber Lang. Predictable.
Yes.
Gonna get hurt, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They run this every week, and they just got to start changing things up if they want to, go a little further. So I'm not too high on them in the playoffs, but we'll get to the playoffs, when we get there.
Hey, Nick, man, Alex talked about this in the episode that you were on. I don't know your background, at what level of organized football you play, but you make a lot of really astute tactical observations. I completely agree with you on the nickel defense. Now, I've got 2 kids, so usually when I'm watching this game, I'm getting thrown up on and trying to, there's a million things going on. So I'm not watching closely, but I've said it a couple times on the show. There are times when just on a simple inside zone play, the Battlehawks get so gashed. I'm like, this can't even be just a player getting beat. This has to be schematic. And in my head, I'm like, are they just playing are they playing cover 2 man and they're just completely playing the pass? But it could be what you're saying. Maybe they have nickel personnel in there. And you can really run on them very effectively. Every single team has done it. And yeah, that's a great point. When I was coaching the defensive coordinator at Ridgepoint, we always planned. In our planning meeting on the weekends, we said, what's plan B? This is our defensive plan coming in. But what happens when the thing we're trying to stop, we can't stop it? And so we planned it. And we told the players that. The players during the whole week of practice, they knew if this doesn't work, this is our answer. So I agree with you 100%, man. I think those are great observations. Moving on into game number 2 for Saturday, the Birmingham Stallions, they fall, man. So a 15-game winning streak finally comes to an end. It's the Brahmas. And down there in the pasture of pain, man, the Brahma bullpen, our good friend Josh, he was able to celebrate, go down to the field party down there with the players. But they get the 18-9 win. I locked that one in. Everybody took it. Nick still believed in the Stallions, and honestly, they didn't play poorly. This is the first time they haven't scored 20 points, I think maybe all season. So the thing I've been saying, and I know I've been skeptical of the Brahmas offense, but to me, I think people talk about their offense because it's an air raid, but to me, it's that defense. I've been saying that the Brahmas defense is legit. If they're going to win this championship, it's because of their defensive guys, in my opinion. Number 45, I'm just drawing a blank on his name, that excellent defensive end that they have. But they're loaded. Beckett, their inside linebacker, who was one of our guys last year, he's all over. He's undersized, but he's all over the place. Their defense is top flight. And their offense, even though I'm skeptical about the scheme of it because I saw last year what happened, you got guys like McFarland. He's just taking little swing passes and he's housing it. I think they have a couple pieces that are just way better than everybody else. I think McFarland's the best running back in the league, bar none. When I see him, I'm like, that's an NFL guy right there. You can just kind of see the different pace. So I feel I'm a little bit nervous because I told you of the 4 playoff teams, I've got futures on all of them except the Brahmas because I never thought they'd be able to win a championship. But now, because of especially with McFarland coming back, Garber's also come back healthy, but especially the McFarland piece and the way their defense is playing, I'm concerned about not having a future on them. But the Brahmas take care of business. They get the win. I locked it in. So that was good. This was the game that I was at with CP and his father-in-law, Brian. the Roughnecks had 2 10-point leads in the fourth quarter. They scored early on to start the second half. I mean, they really honestly played pretty well for the Roughnecks, as far as their season's gone, but it was just classic Roughnecks fashion to lose this game. A lot of people are talking about CJ Johnson using his super challenge like on that first touchdown. So you're like a minute into the first half. There was what he thought a roughing the passer on Nolan Henderson, and he challenged it on the extra point. So the idea being he wanted to move closer and then get the 2-point conversion. That was his thought, was those 2 points that come in. But I've been saying this, you don't want to challenge. I'm assuming it was Blandino in the command center. You don't want to challenge roughing the quarterbacks of Blandino. Some people disagree with me. To me, the Breland Speaks hit on Jordan Tiamu was the most picture-perfect example of helmet-to-helmet roughing the quarterback I've ever seen in my life. Right. And Blandino said that he moved his head at the last second and it wasn't. So if that's not going to be roughing the passer, I don't think anything is with Blandino. Right. I think he tries to protect his people on the field, and so he's just never going to overturn one, in my opinion. That's what I think. I think Pereira plays it, shoots it straight, and if it needs to be overturned, he overturns it. I don't think Blandino is going to ever overturn one. So I think you got to know those kinds of things when you're using a super challenge, and that made us lose a timeout. In a game we're trying to come back in the fourth quarter, that timeout would have definitely helped. Maybe that challenge would have helped on some other plays. I remember just being there live. There was one play that we thought might have been an interception for us, but ended up being a completion on the other team. Maybe that's something we could have challenged. But that, and then the thing that really ticked me off, the 2-minute drill. I don't know if you guys got to see this, but there was zero urgency. And I understand the players were tired. It was hot, but it looked to me like they don't really work 2-minute drill. I watched them. We get a first down. The clock stops to move the chains. Once the clock restarted, when the chains were set, we spent 20 seconds to get the play call in and snap the ball on a 2-minute drill.
Yeah, no urgency.
You got to have the next play ready. And I, from what I understand, CJ was the one calling the plays. And again, it's another example of just doing those little things in execution-wise that a coach can impact. At the end of the day, there's the old saying, it's not X's and O's, it's Johnny's and Joe's. Like the players are the ones that win the games. I mostly agree with that. At the end of the day, talent typically going to win out. It's a player's game. But there are some things where a coach can give you the edge. And I feel like with the Roughnecks, we've fallen short on those areas time and time again. And in these close, that's when you lose the close games. We're not going to be a team that's going to overwhelm anybody and blow anybody out, but we can't win these close games because of our execution. And so that's my thoughts on it. Sorry, I'm just kind of buzzing through. I'm kind of trying to buzz through this because we're already kind of, we're about halfway into the show. Stop me if you guys do want to add anything, though. And then going into the last matchup of the week, 36-21. This was the DC Defenders coming out party. Jordan Tiamu, he was league MVP offensive MVP last year. He's really had a down year, but everything kind of came together. The stars aligned. Does it help to play the Memphis Showboats? Yes, I think that's a big part of it. But also, I think the DC Defenders are not they have a lot of deficiencies this year that they didn't have last year. I think they were a team that didn't really get better, whereas the other teams did. I think they made some mistakes on as far as who they were going to take in that dispersal draft, and so they didn't improve as much as the rest of the league improved. But I think for a proud team like that, it was nice for them to have kind of a nice just showing out party, right? So this game actually, I think the Showboats scored late. I remember looking at my phone; it was a big blowout. So I think the Showboats kind of made it more respectable. But 36-21, that was our sweep, and Nick locked it in. So Nick hits his lock. On the Roughnecks, I was the only one who took the Roughnecks, so I took the L there. But that was week number 9. Let's go ahead and now move on to our standings and futures. This is where I'll let you guys kind of weigh back in on the conversation. Here's our final standings. Birmingham takes their first loss, but it's clear, right? You got 2 really good teams in USFL, 2 poor teams. Similar here, right? Not a lot of intrigue. The only intrigue left is playing for home field advantage. We'll talk about that, when we get to the games for week number 10. The futures, I'm sorry, I did not update these actually. So let's just see. Maybe I can just pull these up on the fly. I apologize. Let's look at what we got here. I always go to the Odds Trader website, and then we always use the DraftKings. So if we look at Birmingham Stallions, -140. So we talked about it kind of earlier, like a couple weeks ago. You probably should have bought some of those Stallions at plus money that you could still get it if you didn't have it already. Remember, they started the season at plus 300. So I got in on that, right? So I bought lots of Stallion shares at plus 300, but now it's at -140. If anybody's new to this, you want to have the plus numbers, right? The plus means you're going to get a bigger payout. So obviously plus 300, if you put in $10, you're going to get back 30 versus if you put in $10 here, you're going to get just less than 10. I can't do the math off the top of my head, but it'd be maybe, I don't know. Maybe Nick can figure that out. Do you have it, Nick?
Oh, the
conversion.
I'm
I don't know. If it was minus 110, a $10 bet would probably get you like $9 back. So something around there, a little less than that. Battlehawks at plus 360, Brahmas at plus 500, Panthers at plus 750. Again, I don't know if they keep showing these numbers. I wonder, are they really advertising this? I say it every week that I'm going to write the Better Business Bureau because there's no way if you're just donating money if you take any of these. These teams are all eliminated.
And
so I don't know if this website doesn't update it or what, but
and if you're gonna like these three teams don't really even matter in this thing. Well, why do you have to put the Renegades at last?
Right, that's just petty right there.
It's I don't know. It just makes me mad, right?
Yeah, and the Renegades have 2 wins, don't they? They've got 2 wins, and the Showboats. And so I think they maybe just stopped updating this once the teams got eliminated. So maybe they're just old. But anyway, here's what's important. You probably the Birmingham Stallions, like the value is kind of gone because it's negative number now. You can still get it if you want to, but it's not as valuable. But plus 360, that's actually some value. Like remember last week it was plus 230, right? And so you're seeing the value increase, right? Because they lost and McCarron's hurt. So if you still believe in the Battlehawks, maybe you could get in on that. What did I say? Minus 140. Yeah, so the Stallions are getting shorter and shorter here. Look at the Brahmas. They went from 800 to now it's 500, right? So that's getting shorter. So you probably missed your window to get really great value. If you bought them at the beginning of the year, it was plus 1,400. And then last one is the Panthers at plus 680. You could have got them at 900 last week. So that would have been probably pretty good, but now they're at 680. But all right, guys. So just thoughts on that as far as these first 4. Nick, I'll let you start this time. Where are you seeing value? Again, we can discount these guys. Where are you seeing value for these top 4?
Well, I got to go. I really like the Michigan Panthers because if they do end up beating the Stallions in the playoffs, then I think it's their game to lose. I get why their odds are not that great, mainly because they have to play the Stallions in the first round, and I think that's why they're so low. Where the Battlehawks and the Brahmas could be a coin flip of a game. So there's no telling who's going to make it to play in the championship there. So I'm really high on the Michigan Panthers, though. They're looking really good. That defense is getting it turned up. And then, their quarterback situation, they're going to get healthier heading into it. So I'm big on the Michigan Panthers as a good buy.
I do too, man. I mean, Perkins was never stopped. And I'm just going to put these numbers in here just because I'm ADD. And if they're going to give me the data, I'm going to put it in. But again, you can kind of tell they did actually update this. So again, this went from 3,000 to 2,800. So anyway, Obi, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I think the best value, if you really think that the Battlehawks can win, I'd say take them. Do we think the Michigan Panthers can beat the Stallions? I mean, do we think that the defense is good enough? If you do, then there's your value. I mean, but it should have struck while the iron. So I think Michigan Panthers would be the best steal. Like if someone puts money on them, there's the best payout in terms of, do you think they can beat the Stallions? Because I think whoever wins out of the Stallions and Panthers, I'm not going to say that.
It's tough.
I almost went there. I almost was going to say whoever wins out of the Stallions, the Panthers wins it all. But, I mean, I don't know. That's a tough one. What do y'all think of that question? That'd be what I have. Do you think it's Stallions, Panthers, or Brahmas and Battlehawks? Like, do you think? I don't know.
I don't think if the Michigan Panthers win, it's going to be a sure thing that they're going to win the championship.
I don't think that either.
Yeah, but I do think they're a really good team though, and I would have them as the favorite, but not by much. But I mean, at the end of the day, really, we all agree it's probably going to be the Stallions that get this thing right. They're far and above better. I just think the Panthers match up well against the Stallions. So if you want a chance at it, the Panthers match up well against the Stallions. So if you want a chance at it, that's it. That's my prediction that the Panthers could pull it off. I just don't see the Brahmas or the Battlehawks being able to pull it off.
I tend to agree with you. To me, in my mind, the 2 teams that have the best chance of winning a championship are Birmingham and then Michigan, in my opinion. I think they're the best constructed to win a championship game. So to me, if they're getting the longest odds, this is your best value as the Michigan Panthers. Yeah. But I got to say, I used to say I think San Antonio is my number 4. I'm starting to think St. Louis might be my number 4 just because I'm worried about that defense. I'm worried about McCarron's health. But the thing you got to factor in, like, that is a tough place to play in that Battle Dome.
Mm-hmm.
I think football is the one place where actually home field advantage makes it. I think it makes a bigger impact than basketball.
Big time.
You talk about all the Jordans and all the great basketball players. They like playing on the road because they want to shut the crowd up. They're wired that way. It feeds them. They don't care that you're booing them. Like that feeds them. But in football, the crowd noise can lead to false starts. And so to me, and lack of communication on offense. So it actually can have an impact on the end of the game. So football is like one of the few sports that I actually do factor in home field advantage if it's loud enough to cause problems. So that will be an advantage. Again, for people that don't know, the championship game is going to be played in a neutral site of St. Louis. So if the Battlehawks can make it, they will have a home game. All right, let's move on to our final segment of the show. It's time to make you some money. Let's try to go make our picks and our locks. All right, moving on to week number 10, the Birmingham Stallions and the Michigan Panthers. So it's a preview. This is going to be the USFL championship game. And so I don't like the way that it worked out, right? These two games are previews, right? They're going to play each other this week, and they're going to play each other again next week. Like, I don't love that. I think it's really hard for bettors too, because now you could tell yourself so many different stories about what motivation is what, who's going to play, who's not going to play. There's really no way of knowing. But for me, Panthers coming in at 7-2, 26-22 win I wrote at Michigan. That was just me dealing with kids. They didn't beat themselves. They were at Houston. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm a little discombobulated. Just a lot of stuff, family and work. But they did beat the Roughnecks. I was there for it. Bryce Perkins was unstoppable for the most part. He did throw an interception and had another one that could have been a pick. But, I mean, we really had no answer, especially for his legs. He's basically kind of Adrian Martinez North. I mean, he has that same game. It played out the exact same way as we couldn't stop his running as well. But 7-2, Stallions 8-1. They lost at San Antonio 18-9. I think the Stallions are going to win this game, but to me, 7.5 is way too many points. I thought it might be 3.5, because don't forget, like, the Panthers are 7-2. I mean, if they win this game, they're both going to finish 8-2. I mean, I think they're fairly even. Their first matchup in Ford Field at the beginning of the year, like, the Stallions struggled to beat them. And now you got Perkins, who's really changed things. So I don't know, man. I do think the Stallions are going to win, but I'm going to take that 7.5. And again, a little bit of kind of a precursor. I kind of like going up underdogs this week just because there are so many narratives about who's going to play, what's the motivation. I think for those reasons, I kind of like having the points in my back pocket, especially 7.5. So I feel pretty good. Again, I think Birmingham will win, but I like Michigan to cover the 7.5. Obi.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with you. You hit the nail on the head there. I mean, again, 7.5. That's a big number, and I think we're at that point in time where nobody's really gonna get. I don't think the Stallions are in the mode of trying to blow teams out as much as they are trying to get to the playoffs healthy, so they can try to reclaim their crown and try to defend the crown. So, and I look at it honestly. Michigan's defense I've liked since the beginning of the season, right? So with that, I look at this to be a closer, within a touchdown, maybe even within 5 or so type of ball game. I think it's going to be a little ugly, but at the end of the day, I still would take the Stallions to win. But I think Michigan's going to keep it close. So I'm taking this Michigan.
And CP, he could not make it tonight, but he also he does like the Panthers. So let me make sure I put in CP's pick there. And one thing that we didn't address, so if you're following John Chavis, who's been the defensive coordinator for all 3 seasons of the Stallions, he was a longtime SEC defensive coordinator at places like LSU and other stops like that. I mean, he's very good. I think in a league like this, a lot of times there's so much change. The Stallions, I think part of why they're good, like they have continuity. They've had the same head coach, the same OC, and the same DC all 3 years, and the same GM, right? So they have that. So Chavis, basically, if you didn't know, he missed 2 weeks ago because he was ill, and then he came back to practice, and before the game, he didn't come to last week's game. Again, we thought was illness, but now it comes out during the week he's no longer with the team. We talk about reporting unnamed sources. I think a lot of people do that for clickbait. So I mean, I'm not here to report anything, but I have talking to people. I've heard rumors. So just take that for what it's worth. It's all rumor, what I've heard. But I've heard that part of it could be, just from some fatigue. But Coach Holtz did say that Chavis is healthy. It's not that his health is stopping him. It sounds like there's something going on there.
Yeah.
This guy's been great. It's obviously not performance. It's not like they're firing him. He's been the best DC in the league.
All right.
I've heard that maybe there were some personality conflicts on the defensive staff, and that just kind of it's speculation, but I've heard maybe some of that kind of stuff also contributing with maybe he, wants to spend more time with family, or maybe he's at a health, this, that, and the other. But just keep that in mind. This is the first time I've seen a little bit of like distraction creep into the Birmingham Stallions. Like they've been a machine. Everything's been rolling. They're all on the same page. But this is like this is kind of odd for them. Like this is the kind of thing you'd think like Orlando Guardians or something, there's like some kind of big distraction leading into the most important time of the year. But now it's happening to Birmingham. And these last 2 weeks about Chavis, they've played by far their worst defense of the year. I mean, they were shut down the first 7 games, struggled a little bit. So that's my only hesitation. I still like Birmingham. I still think they're the best team, but like I am a little concerned about that. On Michigan's side, we saw it last week. Like they were resting certain starters at certain points. Etling got the start. Perkins didn't really come in until the second half. And so there's a lot of question there. Like, was that Mike Nolan trying to like rest people? I saw Colburn didn't get like maybe as many carries as he normally does. So he said in his post-game interview that you don't want to like rest guys. You don't want to be like rusty going into the playoffs, right? You want to win every game. He's found that when you start taking your foot off the gas, you typically have a fast exit in the playoffs. So publicly he's saying that he's going to play everybody, but he kind of showed he's willing to do some rotation. You know what I mean? So It's still kind of unclear. To me, it's obvious Perkins is their best quarterback. But there is some fear that maybe they're not going to play Perkins all the time. He seems to like Etling and Lewerke and all those guys. And like Lewerke didn't get to play this week, I don't believe. But just some things to keep in mind. Okay, last pick, Nick.
Yeah, the Chavis situation, something smells funny, looks funny, tastes funny. It's probably funny, right? I hope it's nothing serious, but that's definitely bad on the something's going on with the Stallions on that. I will say any coach that's really showing their best stuff in the next between these next 2 games that we're about to pick, the Brahmas, Battlehawks, Panthers, Stallions, if they show anything, that would not be too smart. I don't think they're going to show S. I don't think they're going to be too creative. I think they're just going to run some basic concepts because you just don't want to give them any sort of advantage heading into the playoffs. So these spreads are going to be really difficult for me to pick. But I don't see how the Stallions got 7.5, or they took away 7.5 from the Stallions. I'm really confused by that spread. It's kind of making me wonder. But
true.
I got the Panthers. I'm going to, play the safe bet. I'm going to take the points just because I think it's just going to be a close game and no telling what's going to go down.
There we go. It was our first sweep. We'll see if we can bring it home and cash that one in. But we did last week. We got to we cashed in last week. But there's a sweep. We've talked about that. Like I remember there's twice this year that I've seen spreads that I said stunk, right? And both times I took the one that you probably thought wouldn't win, and they won both times. So if you look at that, even though we're going the other way, like people could say, man, this is way off. It should be closer. Maybe you should go Stallions. But I don't think so in this one. To me, that's way too many points. I don't know why it's that many points. In my head, I'm trying to think maybe just people are so enamored by the Stallions' long-term success that's why it's so much. But yeah, we're all going to go Panthers. I think you should too. We're hitting 72% on our sweep, so I think that should be a pretty strong play. All right, another good one. The Brahmas coming in at 7-2. They're the winners against Birmingham. And again, just to go back on this first one, there is no home field advantage, right? Even if the Panthers, if they won, they would be tied. The point differential favors the Stallions because they've blown everybody out. I think the Panthers would need to win by like 29 points to technically win the tiebreaker, which is possible but unlikely. But even if that happened, they can't play at Ford Field because the Wayne State Junior College is graduating at Ford Field that day. I can't even make this crap up. But that is what's happening. So no matter what, the game's going to be at Birmingham. But in this second game, there is home field advantage on the line. The winner will determine if they're going to play in the Battle Dome or the Alamo Dome. So 7-2 for the Brahmas. Really impressive 18-9 victory over the previously undefeated Stallions. Going to take on the Battlehawks. They're laying 2.5 points as home favorites. They had the 36-22 loss at the Arlington Renegades. So again, at Arlington, but this is where they live, right? So it's kind of a home game in a way as far as travel. So they should be fairly rested before they make their trip up to the Lou for their game this week. The Brahmas, they played in San Antonio, so a short bus ride, so nothing too crazy there. Okay, for me on this one, all year I've faded the Brahmas, and I got to say I'm wrong. I pride myself in being someone that I am too emotional, and sometimes I will try to stick by my initial predictions because I believe in my initial predictions, but I try to pride myself in knowing when I was wrong, and I think I was wrong on the Brahmas. I can't ascribe what happened to us last year in the 2023 Roughnecks and just – that's kind of like, if you have an ex-girlfriend, right, and she holds all the stuff that her old ex-boyfriend did against you. That's not right. So I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't do that, man. AJ Smith is 1 year better. AJ Smith does a really good job calling trick plays. That is something he's very good at. He designs them well. He knows when the right. So I got to give AJ. AJ's really good at that. Reminds me of OG Fagan, my old nemesis from Fort Bend Marshall. He always knew when was the right time to put in a trick play, and so AJ does that really well. The offense itself, I feel, is a little bit predictable, and I feel like the other teams have kind of figured out they're in spots, but you got a great running back. AJ does a great job of getting the ball into McFarland's hands, so I'm impressed. I'm impressed with it. I think it's not quite as explosive as people may have thought, right? They only scored 18, but it's good. Couple that with a great defense, and Brad Wing. People don't talk about him. Brad Wing is a dog. He boomed like a 60, 70-yard punt. So you got a great defense. You got a great punter. You got stars on offense in the skill positions. And the Brahmas O-line is good. I do not see a lot of this leakage and quarterback getting dinged up like you see from Memphis or something like that. So even though I will always say I think the run and shoot in these kinds of leagues gets kind of figured out by the end of the year. They've just got too much talent. I can't fade the talent anymore. And especially with the Brahmas, I'm kind of concerned if they can stop the run. Plus McCarron, how healthy is he? Is he going to play? Is he going to be rusty? Is he going to be kind of hampered with that bum ankle? I gotta say I like the Brahmas in this one. I like getting the 2.5. So for all those reasons, I'm coming around here towards the end of the season. I got to go Brahmas and give them their due respect. Obi.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think AJ McCarron is still out. So with that being said, we started to see what happens after people get used to the backup last week with the Battlehawks. So that, and then being coupled with what you said, Coach, I've come a long way from my stale bread analogy as far as the
different team, completely different team. Yep.
Very, very different team. You got to respect what they've done. I love good defense, obviously, being a guy who played defense in my playing days. So, I mean, for me, and the fact that you're giving us 2.5 points on the Brahmas, I'm taking the Brahmas.
All right. And CP, though, I wanted to do CP's pick first so you guys could hear it before you make your pick to help you out. But CP, he's going to go the other way. I keep forgetting to do CP's pick first. But CP is going to go with the Battlehawks. Now, again, I feel good about my pick of the Brahmas. But remember, I'm a 52% picker. CP is like a 69% picker. So this is my favorite saying. When CP talks, I listen. So he sees something that he likes in the Battlehawks. And the Battlehawks lost last week, but don't forget, there were portions of the season before that Birmingham game. There were some people saying the Battlehawks were the best team in the league before the Birmingham and St. Louis played. So CP could be right. Maybe I'm overreacting to the way that they've looked. They've been dealt with injury. So I would not fault anybody for taking the Battlehawks, but I agree with Obi. I'm going to stay Brahmas. All right, Nick.
I got to go Battlehawks on this one. I just don't think AJ Smith's going to show his best stuff. I know the home field advantage is going to be a factor, but you don't want to risk, laying it out all on the floor to go get this win and then not have anything, any tricks up your sleeve for the next game too. So I don't think it'd be smart if the Brahmas win at it with that approach. And the St. Louis Battlehawks just have a very nice, steady offense. That seems to be playing really well, even with Wilkins, although he threw 2 picks last game. But it seems to be running just fine. So give me the Battlehawks. I think they'll win it. Like I said, these spreads are going to be those two are really tough, between. But I got Battlehawks.
I will say our friend Josh from the Brahma Bullpen, our guest for the Brahmas week, he is reporting that Wade Phillips wants the home field advantage bad. That's what he's saying publicly. But again, some of that's coach. What's he going to say, right? Of course he's going to say he wants that. So, I mean, I wouldn't overread into that, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. So we're split. I like it when we're split, man. So you as fans, you as viewers got to decide which analyst do you trust more, So yeah, me and Obi going to go Brahmas and CP and Nick going to go with the Battlehawks. All right. The Arlington Renegades coming off a big victory, 36-22 in the Battle Dome. A lot of people thought the Battle Dome was a fortress. And because of that great fan support, you couldn't go in there and win, but the Renegades did it. They did it pretty convincingly. They improved to 2-7. They're catching 3.5 points. So the DC Defenders are the favorites at minus 3.5. Defenders coming in at 4-5, trying to finish at 500 after, they were a team that went 9-1 last year. They're trying to hit their proud franchise. And the last game at Rowdy Audi this year. They have pretty good fan support. I will say, just going back to our initial topic, my wife always does point out, even the fan support at Audi Field has dwindled. She points that out too whenever I'm watching one of those games. She's like, that stadium looks empty too. Certain pockets is packed, but she's right. There are some empty seats, but that's neither here nor there. I don't want to rehash that one. But the Defenders were the 36-21 winners against the Memphis Showboats. Okay. This is my hardest one to pick, I think, because I like the way I think DC is finishing strong. I think they're a good team. They aren't as good as they were last year, but they still have some of those championship characteristics. So I think maybe I just had a feeling they would finish strong. I don't think that they're a very bottom tier team. I really don't. So to me, for them to finish 500, that makes sense to me. Their team that was 9-1 last year. I feel like they should finish. For them to have a losing record after a 9-1 season, it would be strange, right?
Yeah.
However, I've also said that don't forget the Renegades were a team that won the XFL championship. So they got the same story, right? They beat the Defenders to win the XFL championship. So for them to be at 2-7, I don't know which fan base is more upset. Probably the Renegades, right? I mean, I don't know. The Renegades only won 4 games in the regular season, but I'm going to go ahead and just stick with my initial prognostication when I said that I was one of the few people talking a lot about the travel, and it didn't show it, but it's kind of showing itself now where the Renegades are playing better football later in the season. I think their fresh legs are catching up with them. I think they've always been good, but they found ways to lose. And again, with all the uncertainty of this week, as far as even these teams are out of the playoffs, what's to say that you're not just going to let your young guys get taped now? You know what I mean? Like, not trying to like save bubble wrap guys for the playoffs, but like, hey, our season's over. Let's just let the young guys get taped. We've seen a lot of Jordan Tiamo. So I just don't know. There's too much. That's why you never play fantasy football in week 18, right? In my opinion, of an NFL season, because there's too many guys sitting. So I kind of said I'd preface this like I'm pretty much taking underdogs this week just because I like having the points in my back pocket. Plus, I think the Arlington Renegades are rested. They're feeling good about themselves. So for all those reasons, give me the Renegades. And this time I remembered, let me give you CP's pick before, so Obi can consider that one as well. CP also likes the Renegades. So CP's with me. Obi, what's your pick?
Ooh.
We're on sweep alert. I'm taking the points. I'm taking the underdog just because the Renegades to me are getting hotter and hitting their stride in a better way and in a better fashion. I think, we talked about Greg Williams and his defense. Now, while they won last week, they did beat Memphis. That's probably the worst team in the league this year. And just the inconsistency and the struggles. Like the Renegades, we know what they are, and we like their offense. We like components of them. They just haven't been able to pull out the wins this year, rather than saying this is a deficiency that we notice. And it's so glaring that this team is just not good. It's not so much that. I think it's a good team that caught some bad breaks, and that happens in the league. So getting the 3.5 points, while I know I've been big on DC this year, at the end of the day, once the tape gives us no evidence, I'm going to take the Renegades.
All right. Can we get a sweep, Nick? What do you think?
There is plenty of uncertainty all this week. I guarantee that. But there's only one thing that I can guarantee that is certain. Luis Perez shreds Greg Williams every time. So give me the Renegades. They're going to win this thing.
This guy is a wrecking machine.
And Luis Perez is the wrecking machine. And I think he's going to at least one last hurrah to the end of the season that we still got something, and the Renegades should go get that win.
All right, let's do it. We got another sweep on the board. Let's put Nick down. So we got 2 sweeps this week. Remember, we're hitting 72% for the season on our sweep, so you may want to make those plays on the Panthers and the Renegades. Last one. Part of this episode, I wanted to do. I want to say thank you. I shared a photo on Twitter. The Roughnecks players are great. Kiki Chisholm is one of my favorite players, and he was nice enough that CP and I went down on the field and asked Kiki for a photo, and he was awesome. And we took a photo, and all the players were great. Who else? Justin Hall, the wide receiver. They call him Shorty, but he had 2 touchdowns. He was great. He was super thankful, all the O-linemen. So I just want to say a big thank you. I know this season didn't go the way that it wanted, but I can tell you as a season ticket holder, those guys are great, man. And so I encourage you, if you're watching this and you're considering going to games, bring them. Your kids are going to love meeting those guys. You're going to love meeting those guys. They're great. I think changes need to be made. I've said it. Again, I don't typically like to question coaching as a former coach. It takes a lot. I don't think this team is well coached. And at the end of the day, I just think there was so much meat on the bone. There were so many close games that this team was talented enough to win. So I would like to see some fresh blood. So whether that's bringing in one of the other coaches that we lost, so I don't know, there's several, like a Hazlitt from Seattle, a Riley from the New Jersey Generals, an Andrus from the Philadelphia Stars. Who was it? Ray Horton's son, Jaron. He won the defensive coordinator of the year for the Pittsburgh Maulers. He wants to be a head coach. So I'm talking about on Twitter. You could bring in a young guy, but any of those people, I just think we need. I think we need a little bit of fresh blood in the head coaching position. And that's all I'm going to say about that. That's just my opinion. But I just want to say thank you to the players and the coaches. I know they're trying their hardest. I've been a coach, and so I understand. At the end of the day, like, I've had bad seasons too. I've had those same records for sure myself. So, as far as this game, I said it from the very beginning when Memphis beat us. I was at that game. I said it from week number 1. We're going to beat them when we play them again. It's again because we're so unorganized and undisciplined. We gave them so many things. I can't even list them all. Whether it was a blocked punt, muffing a kick, just penalties over and over and over again on critical situations, confusion. I think the Roughnecks have more talent than the Showboats.
Yeah.
I think the Showboats were they have a lot of stars from the past, but you got to be careful in a league like this. Sometimes those stars can extinguish quickly because of age, attrition. When you start pushing 30 years old in this league, I think I'm seeing the teams that have the rosters of 25 and 26-year-olds. They're really, really successful. So I think the Showboats, and yes, some of those players are still really good, like a Sage Surratt, or Cookus, but he's getting banged up. Like they didn't address the offensive line well enough, in my opinion. So if you don't have a good O-line and they're hemorrhaging points defensively, they've given up like 30 points multiple times this season. So I just think the Roughnecks are better than the Showboats. Moose Johnson did come out and he said that there's going to be something on the line for this game. Traditionally, the team with the worst record gets the first pick in the draft. He's flipping it on his head. The winner of this game will get the first pick, right? So it's rewarding you for playing this game out to get the number 1 pick in the UFL draft next year. I see Nick you have a thought on that, Nick? I saw you kind of have a visceral reaction there.
Well, it seems like a last-minute thing that he just came up with. Am I getting that right?
It's completely a last-minute thing.
Okay, all right.
It feels a little hokey to me, to be honest. It doesn't feel legitimate when you make it up at the end. I agree with you. Yeah. I think he's doing it just so that they can get some more TV viewership to make casual viewers feel like there's something on the line for this game. Because otherwise, why would you watch 2 1-8 teams in what people call the toilet bowl, right? So, but that's what it is. Now, granted, is it that valuable? I kind of talked about this. I don't think the draft is that valuable as it is in like the NFL, because the NFL is the top league. In a league like this, all the best rookies have already been taken by the NFL. So you're drafting guys that are farther down the totem pole. They're probably not as good as the people you already have on your roster in a lot of cases, right? Or you draft somebody, they may not pick your league, right? Like in the NFL, if you get drafted, they're going to pick the NFL for the most part. But here, you draft somebody, he may say, nah, I'm going to go play in the CFL. Mm-hmm. And so there goes your number 1 pick, potentially. That could happen. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It just doesn't have as much panache, I guess, obviously, like an NFL number 1 draft pick. So I give Moose kudos, I guess, for trying. Like, he's not just sitting in his office with his feet kicked up. He's trying to do things to make it better. But I think it's kind of a non-story. Right. So, non-story to me. It's not that big of a deal who gets the number 1 pick. But that is on the line. I think the Roughnecks are better. You're going to give me 2.5 points in my back pocket. I think they're going to do it. I think that even though the one thing about CJ, I think the players do love him. I really do. And I like him. Just seeing him, he seemed like a legitimate, a genuine person. I like him. It's just been too many mistakes. And so I think they're going to play their asses off for him. Mm-hmm. I do. I think they want him to. I don't think they want him to end on a 1-9, and I think they want to go out on a good note. I think it's a good chemistry. The Roughnecks play hard. I will say that. So for all those reasons, give me those 2.5 points. Give me the Roughnecks to go into Liberty Bowl and get the win. Obi. Let me give you CP first, and then I'll go to Obi. CP also, he's going to go Roughnecks this time. He faded him last week, and he was correct, but this time he's going to go with the Roughnecks. So me and CP got the Roughnecks. Obi, what do you have?
We are on sweep alert once again. Now going to the whole, how do you improve the team? I think your front office, the front office in an all league is not going to be ran the same way as in the NFL. I'm saying that's how, if your mindset is we're just going to go draft guys, you're setting yourself up to fail, because this isn't that type of league. You have to be good at finding the hidden gems that played college ball, but whereas, like, for me, I would have this approach no matter whether I was doing UFL or if I was doing NBA. You go find the guys who played 4 or 5 years of school, they finished school, and they just didn't get their chance in the NFL for whatever reason, because they're older, they're more mature, they're more ready to play right now. But usually with those guys, they were maybe a little slower, they were a little smaller. Like, instead of getting a 6'3" D end or wide receiver, he's 6 foot to 6'2". Instead of getting a guy who's 290 and 300, you get someone who's 250 to 270. You get that one tier, that one aesthetic look a little bit lower. But I mean, if they have good talent, they have good stats, and if they still want to play, those are the guys who you would target. And I think as long as you have that and you have a mind like that, then I think you'd be geared towards building your team in the right way. Saying what I'm saying, but nonetheless, I just think, like you said, the age component with that Memphis. If you're old in this, if you're higher up in age in this league, I mean, these guys are youthful, they're spry, and you're going to get burned quite consistently, which is what I think has been the case a little bit for Memphis. To me, Houston, the Roughnecks, while we have had some questionable coaching, just to call a spade, we do have good players, and I think that they're just going to take the win straight up. And if you give us 2.5, then you take that and roll with it.
Yeah, I like your point there as far as the player. Like, to me, Nolan Henderson, he talked about this in his post game. He's maybe 5'10", 5'11" in cleats, and he his whole life he's been doubted because of his size.
Yeah.
So that may continue where Nolan isn't a guy that ever makes it to the NFL just because of that could be a big factor, which to me as a Roughnecks fan, I want him to chase his dream and be successful, but I'm kind of attracted to that opportunity to have, like, he could just be our quarterback. He could be our franchise quarterback. If he's okay with doing whatever he does in the offseason, and then this is his NFL, like the UFL, because it is a pretty good league, honestly. It's one step away. If this is his NFL and he becomes like a Doug Flutie in the CFL, where he plays here for 6, 7, 8 years, and we all like get to know him, and he's our quarterback, I'm down with that. Versus a guy who's a 1-year rental. You know what I mean? Like I'm kind of down with that, man. So I'm kind of interested in Nolan's career, and let's see if he is the guy that becomes our quarterback going into of the future. He's shown some good things, but it's going to be interesting. There's always that opportunity to get somebody coming down from the NFL who's just more talented, like a Bryce Perkins. That's always enticing as well. But good points there. And Nick, make the last pick of the evening for us, man.
I like every time the Showboats would play a game, I would just wonder how they got that win against the Roughnecks. It just blows my mind. So I've got the Roughnecks to cover this, and I guess get the number 1 overall pick. The Roughnecks should lock it up. Hey, and I got one more point on that, by the way. So if the Roughnecks win and the Renegades lose, they're both 2-8, but the Roughnecks would get the number 1 overall pick.
I was thinking the same thing, man. Let me get the horn there for our sweep, but yeah, that kind of doesn't make sense, right?
How do you feel about that as a Renegades fan, Nick?
I don't like it, Obi. I don't like it at all.
Well, I don't know if Moose was thinking this, but here's my argument for Moose.
Okay,
we beat the Renegades. So if he's going merit-based, we did beat them, so that gives us the rights to number 1 pick. So I don't know if he thought it through like that, but that's an answer.
Yeah, but that's that scenario. What about the Showboats and the Renegades? Then the Renegades did beat the Showboats. So I don't know.
That's a great point. Touche.
I don't know if I like this.
Yeah.
But anyway.
It feels gimmicky. Definitely feels gimmicky. All right, last thing we got to do, though, let's make our locks. CP, he said he wants to lock in the Michigan Panthers. Oops, sorry. Did the wrong one there. CP wants to lock in Michigan. It's just too many points. I want to think about mine for a second. I also lean Michigan because it's the biggest spread. There's a lot of points.
While you think, Coach, I'm going to
go ahead, Obi. Do you have yours ready? You can go jump in if you want.
And I'll tell you this, Coach, this has never happened yet, I don't think. Have we ever had a super sweep and super lock and sweep where we both?
Not this year. I think we might have had one last year. I think we did, but I don't think we had it this year.
Coach, you're saying 7.5 points? 7.5 points?
You want to lock it in?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I'm locking in Michigan.
I'm gonna go last this week.
All right,
Nick,
cool.
Because I've got a couple other that interest me, honestly. Nick, what are you thinking?
As soon as CP made that pick, I was thinking the same exact thing, Obi. I was like, yep. I think this is where we're heading now. Kovo's probably going to mess it up. He's still thinking. But, yes, I've got the Michigan Panthers as the lock. And I'm going super lock Kovo, but you go ahead and make your decision.
Lock.
Well, here's what I was thinking, though. Like, honestly, I think the Roughnecks are going to win. I really do. Because I just feel it that they've always been so close, and Showboats just seem like they're really struggling. But I like that one. But hell, let's do it.
Woo!
But let's have some fun. I mean, this is history right here. So in the 2024 season, for the first time, and it's only fitting on the last pick of the regular season, we are gonna super lock this. We are gonna super lock this pick, and man, we appreciate y'all for joining us. Please get more involved and give us some questions, man. Get involved, shoot us some questions. We want to talk with you guys, man. That's what we want. And tell a friend. We keep growing this thing organically. Tell a friend. Please subscribe. We're also, if you're watching us on the United Football Media channel, please go back to our home channel. It's called H-Town Pick'em. Subscribe there as well. Help us grow so that we can get you a better product. But for Obi and Nick and CP, who's not here, we appreciate y'all, and we'll catch y'all down the road.